Hello, fantasy sports fans, and welcome to MFSN's weekly fantasy sports Q&A session. I'm your host, Casey Scheinvold. I'm here with the one and only Ross the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy sports, NFL football, Major League Baseball, anything you want with you, cowboy. I'm excited, Case. 10 days to the Dallas Cowboys play the world champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I know.
Prediction right now, Casey. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Who's going to win that game?
Prediction for that game? I think it's Dallas 35, Tampa Bay 31.
A lot of passing, a lot of offense. I like that prediction.
Those are two high-powered offenses.
To win. I think Prescott has to throw for at least 300 yards for the Cowboys to win that game. It should be a great game to start. And it's in 10 days, Casey Scheinfold. It's going to be unbelievable. I'm excited. You're excited. We're excited. But the biggest news so far in football today, happened today, is Cam Newton. Let's talk about it.
Oh, yeah. For those of you who don't know, who've been under a rock for the last 12 hours, Cam Newton was released by the New England Patriots. He was part of that first round of cuts they made to their roster, which means they take a $3.5 million cap hit, but don't have to pay him any more than that. And Mac Jones is named the rookie starter for the New England Patriots. What are your thoughts on it, Ross?
So I'll give a little perspective on it, and let's go back a year. He replaced a legend. As much as I don't like Tom Brady, and I know he's the GOAT, I don't want to hear I know he's great, please, but I don't like Tom Brady, personal. But basically, he had to take that spot. So all that pressure on Tom Brady, on Cam Newton taking Tom Brady's spot, was a very tough situation to start. And on top of it, he got COVID during the season. I don't know this for sure, but everybody says he's not vaccinated. He's not going to get vaccinated. So I think that had something to do with it also, if I had to guess. But, when the draft last year happened, or this year actually happened, and they picked Mac Jones, number 15, the Patriots, I knew Belichick was up to something. I knew he was going to make this guy the starter. I had a good feeling that Cam Newton was not going to be the starter. I thought he might be the second string guy, but now Cam Newton's gone. I think he might sign with the Cowboys. He might sign with Baltimore as the backup to Lamar. He might sign up in Miami, backup of Tua, which Miami's not happy about. I don't know where he's going to sign, but he made it very clear, Casey Scheinfold, that he does not want to be a backup. And I don't know. Go ahead.
And that's the biggest point there. I don't think, for that reason alone, I don't think he'd sign with Baltimore, where Lamar Jackson is entrenched as the starter, and there's no chance, unless there's a freak injury to Lamar, for him to start. I think Miami is a possibility, because as much as it hurts me, because I own him in dynasty leagues, Tua Tagovailoa has not been getting the ravest reviews from the Dolphins, such to the point where they've been linked to Deshaun Watson. But I also think Houston is an interesting possibility as a landing spot for him, as maybe a one-year deal, because who knows if Deshaun Watson is going to play for them this year, and Cam Newton fits kind of their scheme in terms of where the way their offense is built for that quarterback. I mean, I didn't think Cam Newton was given a fair shake in New England. Bill Belichick built an offense around Tom Brady. Cam Newton is no Tom Brady. He doesn't even have the same profile. He's an extend plays with your legs kind of guy, and not a quick, accurate passer like Brady is. Mac Jones fits that better. And so maybe that's what makes him more valuable to the Patriots at this point. And so Cam Newton's 32 years old. Is that too old? Obviously, I don't think it's too old to be effective. I think his days as a starter may be numbered, despite his insistence that he's still one of the best 32 quarterbacks in football.
Well, today's a big day in the NFL. It's everybody's getting cut. You'll see a lot of big cuts. And the Cowboys cutted their second string quarterback in Gilbert, and they cutted your favorite quarterback, Ben DiNucci.
I know. The chess master of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Exactly. He's a great chess player. Too bad he can't translate that on the football field. But they cut their second string, third string quarterbacks. Do you think that makes room for Cam? I was thinking that all along. I just think they're worried about Dak. They're worried that he can't finish the season, coming off a shoulder injury during the preseason, and before that he had the ankle injury. So, do you think the Cowboys might sign him?
I think he'd be a good fit for the Cowboys. And certainly he's kind of that type of swagger player that Jerry Jones covets and likes, those stars who are bigger than the team at times. I just don't know if he'll go there knowing he's going to be a backup. It'll be interesting to see how long he waits to sign if he's not offered like Houston, where they're starting somebody I haven't even heard of. And I can't think of his name right now. So
isn't it Tyreek Taylor? Isn't Taylor?
No, I think I'll have to look it up.
They're not even starting Taylor. I thought he was the starter. But I don't think anybody in their right mind would want to go to Houston and start. I think their offensive line is just horrendous. They have no running game. Their best receiver is Brandon Cooks, and he's okay. Fuller's not there anymore, and I don't think that's a dream situation for anybody.
Oh no, it's not a great situation, but at least it would put him on the field. If he's looking to sign a contract as a starter, he needs to go someplace where he can show off that he still has the skills to be a starter. And so even if it's a bad team, it's still an audition. But who knows?
I agree. I agree with you. I think now times have changed. I think now when people are looking for backup players and when they're looking for players in general, I think the first question their agent gets asked from the team is your player vaccinated? And I think that's
I don't know how much the vaccine status has to weigh into it. We're all speculating.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not an expert either. I'm not saying I am, but I do think it puts a little wrench in the machine. I don't think it's a good thing that he's not vaccinated because there's so many protocols to an unvaccinated player compared to a vaccinated player, and it's just there's going to be times when he's not allowed to play because he's not vaccinated.
Yeah, I just thought of this.
Put it in there because that's a big part of the game right now.
Yeah. Now we have a lot of questions to get to, but first thing, I just thought of this, and I don't know if it's relevant or not. I wonder if the Eagles regret trading for Gardner Minshew as their backup. They got him for like a 6th or 7th round pick, I think, from the Jaguars a few days ago, because I think Cam Newton would be an interesting backup there, because Jalen Hurts is a young starter, but who knows what it would be like if he struggled early on. And Cam Newton is a similar style player, so he could probably fit into that offense really well. It's just a thought if they might take a chance on him too. All right, first question.
They have Gardner now. What do they need?
Because Gardner's not a mobile quarterback, and their offense is built for a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, but he has the best stash in the business. Come on, Casey.
He does. I'm not arguing the stash. All right. Do you think Travis Etienne is going to be good in his career, or does this injury wreck things for him? What are your thoughts on that?
I hope it's not career ending. When I first heard about it, I was like, could be career ending. But with the advanced medicine and what's going on with medicine right now, and how players recoup so quickly, we look at Carson Wentz. Everybody said he's not coming back till week 7. Now he's on the playing field and he's starting week 1. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on with medicine. And I think he'll be back. I don't know if he'll be the same. I don't know if he'll have the same speed or the same cuts, but he'll be back. He'll be in uniform. He'll be playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars next year. I for sure see that, and I hope it doesn't hurt his career.
Yeah, my thoughts. The only concern I have is this wasn't Travis Etienne wasn't one of those like big bodied running backs already who we were confident could take a lot of contact in the NFL. That would be the only thing I would see getting in his way. Certainly players have come back from these types of injuries before. Although the Lisfranc is, I guess, your feet can be very chronic in terms of an injury. And so I hope medicine advances, but we won't know. I'm sure those who own him in Dynasty or those who are fans of the Jacksonville Jaguars will certainly root for him to have a full recovery. Why? Here's just a general question for you, Ross, just your opinion. Why should everybody start to play Dynasty? Why is it something that's so enjoyable and so fun to play?
I mean, my opinion, Dynasty is like owning your own team. I mean, your team doesn't change. You have the same team for infinity. And I feel you really feel like you're an owner compared to owning like a redraft league where it's a new team every season. I mean, it has its pluses, has its minuses, but I feel if you love fantasy football like I do, and I know you do, I know Dr. Dan Ratner does, I think Dynasty is the way to go.
Yeah, Dynasty, I only started playing it about a season ago, and I had never done it. I'd done keeper leagues and redraft leagues only. Dynasty is a whole different animal, and it is something that there's a steep learning curve that you have to kind of catch up to some experienced players. It's fun. I love it because you can slowly build your roster, right? You can make it competitive, but then to build a dynasty, just a juggernaut of a team, you can slowly build it, and it's more like a game of chess, which is the strategy in it. It's time intense, and so
I have a question for you, Casey. In your dynasty league, who has Cam Newton?
I do.
Oh, what? I have no idea.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a bad day in Dynasty for quarterbacks for me, or a bad 2 days, because Cam Newton got released. And then yesterday, there's all the talk of Deshaun Watson going to the Dolphins. And I also have Tua in my Dynasty league. So I was glad to hear that Tua didn't get that Watson wasn't traded today by the roster cut deadline, which means Tua might be safe in Miami, because I'd certainly prefer him in Miami than I would in Houston. My fear is, if Cam goes down to Miami, what does that do when I have both quarterbacks there and only one who I consider a dynasty type quarterback?
Those are good problems to have.
So, so what rookie long shot quarterback is going to end up being a great value, a la Justin Herbert last year? Well, I mean, Mac Jones certainly seems like it. When he was taken as the fourth quarterback off the board, I don't think anybody saw him as a huge fantasy upside, kind of like he was kind of Justin Herbert-esque. So that certainly could be the one, I would think. I'm struggling to think of anybody else who would be considered.
I love Justin Fields. I feel that the Bears are making a huge mistake not starting him, but I do understand why they're not, because their first game, Casey Scheinfeld, is against is against the LA Rams. And the Rams have a guy named Aaron Donald, who's a pretty good ball player, and he hates quarterbacks. He smashes quarterbacks. So maybe it's a good thing that this rookie's not starting against the Rams. But I think Justin Fields is a lot better than Andy Dalton. I think it's a win-win situation for the Bears when Fields is ready to go. And the other one, Trey Lance. I don't know what your thoughts on this, but the 49ers, the coach of the 49ers, Shanahan, said that they're going to have a revolving quarterback situation where Trey Lance will take some snaps and Garoppolo would take some snaps. What's your thought process on that?
My first thought is, I don't believe him that he's going to do that. He might play a different one occasionally, but I don't think you do your team any good by allowing neither of your quarterbacks to play at game speed enough to get into a rhythm. Now, I just read that Lance has an injured finger, I think a bone crack.
He'll be fine for game one. He'll be fine for the first week. He's injured right now. They're not playing any games next week, Casey, until next Sunday. So they're expecting him to be healthy and ready to play. I still
believe, that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starter for the first few weeks. I agree with what Rich Davis said on our show a couple weeks ago, that Shanahan wants to show off Garoppolo to see if he can find trade value for him so that Trey Lance can take over. I don't think you do that by playing the two interchangeably. But if they do it, it kills the fantasy value of both of them. And I don't know what it also does then to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, because neither of them can get into a good rhythm with a quarterback either.
Well, the thing is this, and being a former defensive player, it's going to be hard to prepare for two different style quarterbacks. You got one quarterback that loves to run out of the pocket, and you got another guy that likes to be in the pocket, even though they both scored running touchdowns last week. But I mean, Trey Lance is a true runner. I mean, this guy can run and throw and pat. He can do everything you want out of a quarterback. This kid does, and he's just going to get better and better with a huge ceiling. So I feel that I think Shanahan will. I think he will rotate these guys during a game. I don't know who's going to get the majority of the snaps, but I think it should be interesting. But you know what happened way back when Tom Brady was a quarterback at Michigan? They did the same thing with Tom Brady and I've got the other guy's name. If you said it, I would know it. But
Drew Myers, was that?
No, Hennigan. It was I forgot the guy's
name. Was
it
Chad Henne?
No, it wasn't Chad Henne. But it doesn't matter. But Michigan tried to do the same thing with quarterbacks. It did not work out. It worked out horribly for Michigan. And they had no idea they had the GOAT playing quarterback for them, and they didn't even use him in the right way, which is kind of pathetic. But I can't wait to watch the 49ers first game and see how they use these two quarterbacks, because Shanahan has an idea and he'll do it. I mean, he's a guy that he'll do these crazy ideas. He doesn't care. I don't think it hurts Ayuk's I don't think Samuel Ayuk will be hurt at all, and I don't think it's going to the value of any of the other players, but we'll see.
No, I don't think it would devalue Mostert or Sermon or Kittle. I do worry not about devaluing them, but they all this talk in preseason, whenever you listen to the reporters at these camps, when they're hyping up wide receivers or hyping up quarterbacks, and you're talking about players moving up the draft board. I use Jerry Jeudy, for example, the wide receiver in Denver. All the talk was about the chemistry he had with Teddy Bridgewater. And then when Teddy Bridgewater was named the starter, how much that impacted or vaulted his value because they have such a good connection. If chemistry is so important, if that connection between quarterback and wide receiver where they know where each other are going to be is so important, how could that not be detrimentally impacted or negatively impacted by a rotating door of quarterbacks? I don't know. I
don't know either. I mean, we're going to find out next Sunday. So I'm just telling you right now that you'll see both quarterbacks getting snaps next Sunday. It's not going to be just Garoppolo right now.
Okay, that's certainly possible. Let's shift sports for a second because I know we like to be a little more diverse here. Let's talk some basketball. James Harden recently did an interview, I think, and I saw it by one of the New Jersey Jets beat writers, where he talked about scary hours for other teams if he gets into shape and gets healthy and the team plays the way it could. What did you make of that argument?
Well, I mean, I saw the interview. He was like at a charity football game. It was like he had a hat on that was way too small for his head. I don't know if it was a softball game. He was outdoors, so it was something outdoors. It wasn't basketball. It was another sport he was playing. And they asked him about, what do you think your chances are to win the championships? I'm sure he's asked that question a million times during the offseason. It's like, that's something more original. Come on, guys. So they asked him, and he says, I'm healthy. He said it. He says, I'm healthy. And he says, it's going to be a scary time. It's going to be scary hours for the competition in the NBA, which means if he's healthy, with Durant being healthy and with Kyrie Irving being healthy, being unbelievable, that team's going to be very hard to beat. And I do want to talk about the Lakers when we have some time too, because I don't understand their roster, and I want to talk to you about it, and you can maybe clarify with me what are they doing. But I feel Harden. I think Harden's just talking smack. I mean, I think he's having fun, and obviously he's healthy. He's ready to go. He's playing in these charity. I want to say it's a softball game. He's playing in these charity softball games. He's having fun. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that offense is scary. I don't know how much they'll play defense. Obviously, Kevin Durant is a good defender. Kyrie Irving and James Harden aren't exactly known for their defense. Kyrie Irving disappeared from the team for periods of time for personal reasons last year. I'm not sure how much he can be trusted, but James Harden, when healthy, is probably the best scorer in the NBA right now. So he, I guess, has the right to talk smack.
And he's a triple-double guy. He gets rebounds and he gets assists. I mean, before he got hurt, I mean, a friend of mine, this guy named Dr. Dan Radner, had him in his fantasy team, and he was getting triple-doubles almost as much as Westbrook was. I mean, he was unbelievable last year. And Dan was, I think, I never seen a grown man cry, but I think Dr. Dan Ratner was crying when Harden went down. I believe
he could have shed a tear. I know you brought up Westbrook, which would make it an easy segue for me to the Lakers, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to deny you that and make you be frustrated for a minute. Tell me about Donovan. Did Donovan Mitchell really ask his mom and sister if they would be punched in the face by Mike Tyson for $10 million?
Yes, what he did, he tweeted this, so you can read it yourself. He tweeted this and said, for $10 million, would my sister or my mom get hit by Mike Tyson? $10 million. And that's a question like, I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen Mike Tyson fight in person. I have. It's a scary time. I've been close to Mike Tyson. I've worked with him a few times on different shows. And nicest guy. Nothing bad to say about him, but you just look at him, you're saying, how can I hurt this guy without using a bat? I mean, this guy is just tough as nails, and he throws so hard, Casey. And I mean, the question, I mean, I know a little bit, he was like teasing his mom and sister about the 10 million, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would do it for 10 million. You're going to have like serious brain problems and probably lose some teeth.
It's not worth
it to me.
I certainly wouldn't do it if my brother was making max money from the Utah Jazz. I would just rely on him to give me the money. But I mean, what isn't Donovan Mitchell making like $40 million a year with his max contract? But I don't know if I could take a. I think I see brain damage.
I mean, would you let your? Well, let me ask you a question. I know you have a daughter. I know you have a wife. Would you let your wife get hit in the face for $10 million?
She's not watching probably, so I might. No, I would not.
The answer is yes. Of course you would, Casey.
No, I never would. Of
course not. No. I'm teasing you, Case.
I
mean, it's
but it would be tempting.
You got to ask yourself.
It would be tempting.
I mean, yeah, it would be tempting. I mean, $10 million is a lot of money.
I could live off that for a really long time. Okay,
I hope so.
Let's talk about your Lakers. The big news.
No, not my Lakers. I'm a Clipper fan, so let's clarify.
Okay, let's talk about one of the LA
Let me just talk about their roster first. Okay, you got LeBron James, 36 years old. Carmelo Anthony, 36 years old. You got Rondo, who they just signed. They was on the championship team 2 years ago as a backup guard. They brought him back. He's in his mid-30s. They got Dwight Howard, who's like in his mid-30s. I mean, they got Anthony Davis, who's injury prone, who can't stay healthy throughout the season. And they signed. I know they signed Monk from Charlotte. They signed. I think they signed a few other guys too. But basically, I mean, they have a really, really, really old roster. The Lakers. I mean, what's going to? I mean, they're playing. And the NBA is not cutting their season down. They're playing like a full 81 games. I want to say. I mean, time's going to tell with this team.
I'm not even looking at, I mean, that's obviously very critical and certainly something that needs to be taken into account. But I mean, you have literally, in my opinion, other than James Harden, the two most ball dominant players in Russell Westbrook and LeBron James.
I forgot Russell Westbrook too. He's in his early 30s.
On the court at the same time. I don't know if this is LeBron James saying I've played for 18 years now or however long it's been, and I'm 36 and there's a lot of wear and tear on me. I'd rather be an off the ball offensive player for a stretch. You know, in that case, Russell Westbrook can continue to run the offense.
I agree with you. I think LeBron, I don't think he's going to be I think he'll fake an injury. I think he'll say he's hurt. He can't play a few games, and he'll let Westbrook take over, like you just said.
I mean, you certainly don't want LeBron coming down the court and Westbrook spotting up from three to be the open shooter. I mean, the guy's a notoriously poor 3-point shooter. So it'll be interesting. You know, how can they both get triple doubles every night? So they'll have to battle for rebounds. You'll see them boxing each other out by game 17 or something.
I don't know. I just think it's like the whole team is like.
Yeah, I question the build of it. You know, but certainly.
But you know who's in charge of it? It's not. Jeanine Buss isn't putting this whole thing together.
LeBron James is.
It's Mr. James is doing all the other coordinating and all the other manufacturing.
Yeah, of this team. But if anybody who watched any of our shows in the over the winter knows, I'm not exactly a basketball savant when it comes to fantasy. So I look at it from a macro level. I can't speak with any.
I mean, I still think I'm excited just because I want a Nets Lakers championship series. That's what Ross the Boss wants. I want to see Durant versus LeBron. I want to see Irving versus Westbrook. I want to see Harden go crazy. I mean, I want to see all this stuff go on in the championship because I feel those two teams playing each other would be great television. And I know everybody says, "Oh, well, the Bucks won it last year. Aren't they the favorites?" They're not the favorites. They were the Bucks. The reason the Bucks were in it is because Durant missed a three-pointer by like a shoelace. I mean, it was like inches. I don't even remember this case. He shot a three, but it was really a two, and they counted as a two, which is fine.
Yeah.
But if that was a three, I think the Nets were going to go to the championship and win it all. But that's fine. It's part of basketball. I get it. But again, Harden wasn't 100%. Irving didn't even play, and Durant played. He played well. But I think if all three of those guys are healthy, watch out, the rest of the league. They will not lose many games.
Christopher Atwater wants us to know that there was an awesome ending to the Mets-Marlins games today. The Mets were down 5-1 going into the bottom of the ninth inning and put up a 5 spot. I don't know if Nimmo's home run was a walk-off or not, but he hit a home run in the ninth inning to get them the win. From what I understand, you know, obviously the Mets have been in the news the past day or two because of the Javi Baez. He took his thumb out of his mouth long enough to stick it down to the fans. because he said that getting booed kind of hurts his feelings and he wants them to know how it feels. But they got the win today. I don't know if all is forgiven. As a New York Yankees fan, I know the New York fan base has a long memory and doesn't kind of take kindly to people not acting like a man, I guess.
Well, they actually came out today, right before air. The Mets came out, and Lindor and Baez both apologized to the fans, saying they were out of listening with them, telling what happened today.
I understand. I know what the apologies were, and they were.
But I mean, again, Baez is a very emotional player, and he's always been like that. I mean, he should not be playing in New York. It's too big of a market for him. He can't handle the stress. Fans are very hypercritical in New York City, as you know. He needs to play in a small market team, like either like a Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Tampa. He needs to play somewhere where the press won't destroy him everything he does, because he does. Yeah. He's a very emotional guy. I mean,
Chicago's a big market, but. I know they both apologized today. Yep. We never meant to offend anybody. If we we apologize to them. I hate conditional apologies. I mean, that's a non-apology, because of course you intended to hurt people's feelings. Why else would you give them a thumbs down? I'm not going to give somebody the middle finger and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that would offend you. I'm sorry if that offended you. That's not what I meant to do." I don't take him as apologies. I take it as an immature. He was immature. He got all butt hurt because they were booing him when he wasn't playing well. He stuck his thumb down. Sandy Alderson or Cohen, the owner, went to him and said, "Look, dude, you need to apologize, and at least apologize and say you didn't mean to offend people." That's what he did. It wasn't meaningful. Mets fans know that. They're not going to accept that as an apology.
Of course not. And Baez won't be there next year anyway.
No, but Lindor also did it, and they just signed him to what, a 10-year contract, or
a big waste of money contract. I agree with you.
Yeah. So
I agree, and I know those guys. They don't want to hear boos from the fans. And
Chris Atwater says to me, Baez scored from first on a single, close play at the plate. Fans were plenty happy. I'm sure they were happy with the win, Chris. And certainly if he goes bonkers, gets him to the playoffs and carries him through the playoffs, they'll forgive him. But he's going to get thumbs down a lot for the next 2 to 3 weeks every time he's up to bat. I mean, he just opened the door for that.
Especially away games with away fans yelling and screaming at him.
Absolutely.
I mean, his how like the Fonz had the thumb up. The sign for Baez is a thumbs down. So you see Baez, you go like this.
It's funny because the Yankees a few years ago, when they had Todd Frazier, I don't know if you remember this, they famously started doing the thumbs down as a rallying cry, because when they played the Mets, Todd Frazier, I guess, I forget what he did. He either hit a walk-off or had some big hits. And so one of the fans, every time he came up, was giving him the thumbs down, one of the Mets fans, and the Yankees kind of turned that into a rallying cry for a season when they had Todd Frazier. But so the thumbs, I guess, are important in Flushing. I don't know. All right.
I don't either.
Football is starting. We focus on fantasy football here, but we understand football is obviously a lot more than just fantasy football. There's actual players, there's actual families who are being affected, and none more right now than in New Orleans. Hurricane Ida is just crushing the city, knocking power out, causing flooding, destroying properties, making it very difficult. From a football perspective, the New Orleans Saints have all been relocated to Dallas. And as of today, I think Sean Payton said they could be staying there for the next month because of the amount of damage that Hurricane Ida is doing to the city and whether or not they'll be able to play in the Superdome. How do you think, if we make it about fantasy, and of course our thoughts and prayers are with all of the people in New Orleans and everybody affected by this, but on this show, how do we think that'll affect the fantasy value of the New Orleans Saints? They're not going to have a home field. They're going to be living in a hotel, and even their home games are going to be road games, it sounds like, for a considerable period of time.
I think, first of all, my condolences to everybody in the South, Mississippi, Louisiana, even parts of Kentucky now is getting a lot of rain. But I feel that the Superdome does not have any major damage. They said that already. It's not like Katrina, when Katrina destroyed the Superdome. So I believe they'll be back playing games in there in October. I don't feel it's going to affect the Saints that much. I think with Winston and with Kamara and their offense, I think they'll be just fine. And remember, you know who was the number one defense last year? It wasn't the Bucs, it wasn't the Bears, it was the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
So their defense is very good, very strong, and they led the league in scoring last year in defense for their defense, and they're very great defense. But I do feel it could affect them in a little bit. I know the home crowd in New Orleans is great, but they'll be back by out. Maybe they'll flip flop some games with teams that they play twice, and I have to look at their schedule. But I believe it should not affect their fantasy value at all. Zero
Okay.
value.
You heard it first. Ross the boss.
And
Take the Saints at
if you're
face
drafting
value.
if you're drafting, I like Kamara as my second running back, or maybe third running back, just because I just feel he'll be running the ball a lot more now with Michael Thomas out. So we'll see what happens.
And what do you think of Jameis Winston now that he's the entrenched starter?
No, he got 2 years to sit behind Drew Brees and learn the offense. I mean, and I know he had never had a problem whipping the arm and gripping the ball and throwing it. I mean, he was unbelievable. I mean, he had 5,000 yard season one year. So I think his problem was turnovers and learning the offense, especially in Tampa Bay. I think he's going to have a great year. I like Marquez Callaway. I think he'll have a great year. I love Kamara. I think he's going to bounce back. I know he had a good year last year, but I think he'll be a lot better this year. I think he'll have 70 or 80 receptions receiving. I think he'll have over 1,000 yards rushing. He could have over 1,000 yards receiving. We'll see what happens. But I feel the Saints are going to have a really good season this year.
Yeah, I agree that actually Winston being the starter helps the receivers because he's a risk taker. Like he likes to throw it long. He likes to throw it into tight windows, so they'll have more opportunities to make plays. Taysom Hill might be more of the manager style, the game manager. He runs a little bit more. So he could have diminished some of the values of, I love Marquez Callaway. So does Christopher Atwater, who pointed out that he thinks he'll help carry that New Orleans offense. I agree, certainly, at least until Michael Thomas comes back. Winston, I think, is really beneficial for the wide receivers and even Alvin Kamara in that, because the defenses have to spread out more, I think, against somebody like Winston.
And you know what? I mean, think about this too. If you're practicing in Dallas, that means you have no distractions. Like, you're not worried about your girlfriend or your family, and you can really concentrate on playing football. Because when these players, when they practice in their hometown, they go back to their home. They're out doing whatever they're doing. But when they're in away city, there's only one thing to do, is to practice.
From what I heard today, is it George Benson? Is that the name of the owner of the Saints?
Yes.
He is paying for everybody's family to stay in a hotel in Dallas as well while they're.
Oh, he is? Oh,
yep.
Horrible.
So their families are there with him. He's
horrible.
It's one of the most generous things. I know,
but
kudos to that owner.
Let's concentrate on football. You can be away from your family for a few weeks to play football. Come on.
Okay. Never the sentimental type, Ross the boss. All right.
No.
Let's take one or two more questions before we wrap up. Oh, this one will hit close to home. Dan Ratner wants to know, Dr. Dan, do you think Joe Burrow or Baker Mayfield is going to be a better fantasy quarterback this year?
Joe Burrow coming off the big injury. I mean, he has 3 great receivers. I like Joe Burrow better than Baker Mayfield this year in fantasy-wise. I don't know about wins. I don't think the Bengals will have as many wins as the Cleveland Browns. I think fantasy-wise, the Bengals have a horrible defense. I say it. I'm a Bengal fan. I can say that kind of stuff. They'll be way behind in points. They got to fling the ball. It's going to hurt Mixon a lot. That Mixon's not going to get at that many handoffs compared to how many times they throw a game. I say that they'll probably throw about 70% of the time, which is very high for any offense. And with Boyd and Higgins and Chase, I mean, all 3 of those guys potentially can have 1,000 yards each. So I feel Burrow's going to have a better season. Baker has Chubb, unbelievable running back, probably top 5 running back in the league. Then they have Hunt too, right behind him, who can be a beast also. And I know they're doing something new in Cleveland. They're doing a play action, and that's going to help Odell Beckham a lot. So with the play action in the playbook now in Cleveland, you'll see some more passing, but I don't think he'll have a better year than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. I think the offense for Joe Burrow sets him up for more fantasy points than Baker Mayfield, but so does the defense of each team. Cleveland has a decent defense. They have a good pass rush.
They have a really good defense.
So they're going to be in close games, which means they might be able to run the ball more, whereas Cincinnati's defense isn't great. So I think the Bengals might be playing catch up a lot, so they might have to air it out. So I think in that respect, I would side with Joe Burrow for the better fantasy year.
Better fantasy year. I don't think the Cleveland I have at least winning 10, 11 games this year. I'm hoping the Bengals win 7 or 8 because I was in Vegas last weekend, and I bet the over in the wins. It was 6.5, and I think I made a pretty good bet.
Nice. All right. So I guess one important thing we haven't touched on that happened this week is the J.K. Dobbins injury. For those of you who don't know, J.K. Dobbins, the stud running back for the Baltimore Ravens, blew out his ACL the other night. He's on season-ending IR, going to undergo reconstructive surgery on that knee. That injury propels Gus Edwards to the starting role of the offense. I think it vaults his value tremendously. How do you see that impacting the Ravens this year? The Ravens obviously might be the favorites in the AFC North, but they just lost their starting running back.
So, I mean, as much as I hate to say it, I think running backs are really you can replace running backs pretty easily compared to a quarterback or even a wide receiver. I think running backs, there's always like a bright star somewhere in the running back during the season that no one's taking right now in fantasy that comes like the guy Robinson for Jacksonville last year, or Davis for Carolina last year. So, I mean, there are bright stars. I feel Lamar Jackson, just like his points have got a lot better now because he's going to lead you heard this from me first. He's going to lead Baltimore in rushing this year. Now there's no doubt. I thought there was a doubt with J.K. Dobbins as your running back, but now Lamar Jackson's going to be running the ball, throwing the ball. He'll do whatever he can to win a game. So you'll see Lamar running more. He'll be leading the team in rushing. And Todd Gurley, actually, they gave him a tryout. They didn't want to sign him. They passed on Todd Gurley.
Interesting. Well, Gurley's had his own injury issues over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I still think he has a couple of years left in him, though. So I think the Ravens are content with Gus, like you said. I think Gus the Bus will do a good job. You know, obviously in all these drafts now, he's moving up tremendously.
Yeah, I think he moves up into probably the 20s as a running back 20. Or teens.
I have him in the top 20 for sure. Baltimore loves to run the ball, but the biggest positive on this whole thing is Lamar Jackson owners. You're going to do a lot better now with the rushing because
they might. Although I agree with you. I think they're still going to be a very strong team, but I think Cleveland fans are going to be happy because I think this opens the door a little bit for them to maybe compete for that AFC North crown. But we'll see. You know, football season, 10 days away. We're all super excited. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel, ring the bell for notifications, click like if you like what you're seeing, and keep leaving us comments, keep asking us questions. We love answering them. And also, our website, mfsn.tv. Please visit it. We're going to update it every week with rankings of position players in the NFL to help you set your fantasy lineups every week. And also, we have all of our old content on there. We have a lot of great interviews with celebrities and athletes. We have strategy shows that will help you understand better how to be a successful fantasy sports player. Please check out the website. Send us any feedback. We love talking to you. We hope you have a great week. Stay dry. If you're in the South or the East Coast, you're going to get really wet in the next 24 hours. But again, we wish you a happy and healthy, and we'll see you on Thursday.
As a reward for making Killcliff the undisputed clean energy drink of America and beyond, we've packed in more B vitamins, electrolytes, and killer taste than ever. And as a bonus, we've made the ultimate loyalty program. It's not a cult, it's not a club, it's the Killcliff Cult Club. Tap into special offers like flash sales and exclusive merch, deep discounts, and eternal awesomeness. Go to Killcliff.com to get your